I had the pleasure to form and announce formation of the first ever Hindu, Buddhist, Sikh, and Jain caucus in the United States Congress. Very first time. Yeah.
And when I first came to Washington, there were just a few people in the Clinton administration who were Indian American. And today, Indian Americans are all throughout the administration. When we're talking about AI issues, the Office of Science and Technology Policy is run by Arti Prabhakar, an Indian American. When you hear the president's words in his amazing speech on democracy just 2 days ago, those words are written by Vinay Reddy. In fact, you can't throw a stone in the White House and not hit an Indian American these days. So, no, that's something to applaud.
What an incredible moment we had with the landing of Chandrayaan on the moon. I think about that, and a round of applause is well warranted, because I think about that moment, and it was my mother actually who sent me the video of the landing first. She keeps track of everything that's happening in India's space program, knows everybody who's leading ISRO, knows all the key players. But she sent me that video, and the sense of pride that she had, but also that we all had for this global accomplishment was really extraordinary.
And that 60 years ago, my father chose this country to settle in, arriving, as he likes to remind us, with only $14 in his pocket and a bus ticket. The rest, they say, is history. For his kid to go on and serve as the U.S. ambassador to the country of his roots and now serve as Deputy Secretary of State is the longest of long shots.
You look at all the CEOs of all the technology companies, you look at the great scientists, you look at the great leaders in industry, entrepreneurs like our congressman here. This is truly an expression of...
Good afternoon. How is everybody? Wow, so beautiful to see all of you here. Thank you for everything you do every day. We have, Indian Americans have done so well in every walk of life. And now we're trying to make a mark in the political arena, right? I just came from the United States Congress and just cast a vote to make sure we do not shut down U.S. government. This has been a wonderful week. And I had the pleasure to form and announce formation of the first ever Hindu, Buddhist, Sikh, and Jain caucus in the United States Congress. Very first time. Yeah. And we will not tolerate any kind of hate. We will not tolerate any kind of bigotry against any religions that we practice. We will not tolerate the comments by the police officer who mercilessly killed Janaki Kandua, and then had the nerve to marginalize her life, calling it a life not worth much. We will not tolerate such attacks on our brothers and sisters. We will not tolerate such attacks on our religion. We will not tolerate such attacks on our community. And the caucus is there to not only protect our community, but our children and our grandchildren and their rights for their freedom. And thank you for all of you being with me on that. I was born in Karnataka, in Belgaum, a small town in Belgaum, Karnataka. And I'm a Marathi speaking guy. I'm a first Marathi speaking, first Kannada speaking person in the United States Congress. Look, I was 24 years old, growing in poverty, living in a small little apartment, 10 of us, working as a janitor in Belgavi while I was going to college. And from that, this year, in June, I had the pleasure to welcome and escort Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji to the joint session of US Congress, where he did a fabulous job addressing and making India's case and showing why India is a power that needs to be recognized by the entire world. A fast-growing economy, soon to be the third largest economy, and I'm working in the Congress to ensure that India and United States have a strong, trusting relationship. It's not only good for the people of India, it's not only good for the people of the United States, it's good for world peace. It's good for peace in the Indian Pacific Ocean. And as a congressperson of Indian origin, I would work with the Indian government, with the United States government to ensure that we will have a strong relation between the oldest and the largest democracy in the world. I don't want to take a lot of your time. I know there's a lot of things going on here, so I'm going to be brief, but I will be fighting, I'll be working hard, and you can reach me in my office. My office is just simple, Tanedar. Yes, we have a Tanedar in the US Congress. So it's tanedar.house.gov. Reach out to us. We have an office in Detroit, Michigan. We have an office here in DC. And I represent Detroit, Michigan. As you know, Detroit suffered and so continue to suffer from the systemic racism. And Mahatma Gandhi's principles are key in fighting against racism, fighting against injustice. You know, Martin Luther King called Mahatma Gandhi his guru. Right? And his principles, Gandhiji's principle, MLK's determination is what helps me motivate to continue to help my district, my great city of Detroit, and my state, Michigan. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I'm really honored to be here with so many leaders in our community, but I also am really honored to be here with so many leaders in our country. I think it is a real testament to the strength of the diaspora, which I know the ambassador spoke to, that we have so many leaders in the Biden-Harris administration. So many people here I work with every day, and I am honored to call friends. We tackle really critical challenges. And it's amazing to me that we have a Deputy Secretary of State, one of the highest ranking people in our national security infrastructure, as an Indian American, my good friend. I cover domestic policy, so I steer clear of international issues these days. But I think what's really important is that we have such a strong person-to-person, community-to-community leader relationship based on the strength of the diaspora. And I've been here in Washington now. I don't want to date myself, but it's been a few decades that I've been working in Washington. And when I first came to Washington, there were just a few people in the Clinton administration who were Indian American. And today, we are Indian Americans are all throughout the administration. When we're talking about AI issues, the Office of Science and Technology Policy is run by Arti Prabhakar, an Indian American. When you hear the president's words in his amazing speech on democracy just 2 days ago, those words are written by Vinay Reddy. In fact, you can't throw a stone in the White House and not hit an Indian American these days. So No, that's not something to applaud. And that is really because over so many years, this community has really widened its span to think broadly about contributions to our country. As immigrant, when I first came to Washington, most people asked me why I was here and not working in medicine or in business or some other area, and I don't get that question anymore because of really how much our community has honestly matured and recognized that we can participate and contribute in so many ways. And I think it is the strength of that relationship and the strength of the democratic participation that we are part of that really builds on the U.S.-India relationship. And it is an honor to be here with the foreign minister, Mr. Jaishankar, who is a great leader across so many issues and has recognized for years the important strength of the diaspora. And so I really want to say I'm here because whenever the ambassador calls, I answer. He's one of the strongest ambassadors India has ever had. He is a real and fierce advocate for the U.S.-India relationship, and more importantly, an advocate for the U.S.-India partnership. It is a true partnership, as Rich laid out. So really, I am here to say thank you. I am here to say thank you for the vision, leadership, advocacy, and strength of this community, which I know is such a vibrant part of American democracy. And thank you for being more and more engaged in civic participation in our democracy. We're lucky to have more and more members of Congress, like Congressman Srinadar, and I am who I consider a great colleague, and I'm really thankful for all of your engagement in this relationship, which I think strengthens both the United States and India. Thank you very much.
I also just want to say, just what an incredible moment we had with the landing of Chandrayaan on the moon. I think about that, and a round of applause is well warranted, because I think about that moment, and it was my mother actually who sent me the video of the landing first. She keeps track of everything that's happening in India's space program, knows everybody who's leading ISRO, knows all the key players. But she sent me that video, and the sense of pride that she had, but also that we all had for this global accomplishment was really extraordinary. You know, my parents, like many of the folks who are here, like many of your parents, my parents left India years ago to come and find their way here to the United States. But even though they left India, they didn't leave India behind. They still retained many of the key values, the culture, the spiritual traditions that they were born and brought up with and that they held dear to them. The freedom struggles, of the independence movement were still fresh in their own minds. My grandfather was a freedom fighter who was beaten and jailed by the British as he protested and fought for Indian independence. And even though my parents ended up leaving India and coming to the United States, they saw in the United States a very similar set of values that their new home and their ancestral home aspired to: a fierce commitment to democracy, a recognition that every life has value, regardless of caste or religion or creed, and a dedication to service, not just as something we do on the side, but as a way of life. Those commitments were embodied in the people they taught me about as a child. My father would often be gone for 2 or 3 days when I was growing up, and he would be working long shifts in many hospitals across South Florida to support the family when we first moved to this country. And during those long nights, my mother would teach us, my sister and I, about Gandhi, about Vivekananda, about Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. She would teach us about the Gita. She would read stories to us from the Puranas. She would teach us the values that she was born and brought up with. And one of the key lessons that she taught us was about friendship and the power of friendship to transform our lives, the essential nature of friendship for progress, for our survival. And it is in that vein that I'm so glad to be here today, because the friendship between India and the United States will be one of the defining friendships and partnerships of the 21st century. It's a partnership And I'll tell you why it was so essential. Because there's key progress that we need to make on many areas that you've heard about today. But I want to focus in particular on the partnership around health. The importance of our collaboration around future pandemic preparedness and on addressing infectious diseases which know no border. It's also essential for us to address the growing threat of non-communicable diseases like diabetes and heart disease, which continue to take millions and millions of lives each year, but which we could together help address. But it also requires collaboration on one last front, which we don't talk about often enough, which is on addressing mental health, which has become a global struggle in the United States and across the world, as we've seen rising rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide, particularly among young people. When I was growing up, my feeling and my belief and my hope was always that your childhood is a time where you look forward most to everything that's to come in life. It's when you're optimistic, it's when you're hopeful, it's when you're filled with possibility. But that seems to be a more and more rare phenomenon as we see these rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide rise among young people. So as a global community, we have to come together to address these critical health needs, and particularly with mental health, to help eradicate the stigma that tells us that because you suffer with mental illness means that you are fundamentally broken as a human being. We have to address some of the root causes of the mental health crisis, the growing threat of loneliness and isolation, and some of the negative and harmful impacts of social media, particularly on our kids. And we've got to address the gap that we have in accessing care. It is not right that people suffer without the ability to get the care that they need. And this is a place where all of us throughout the global community can and need to do better, and we need to work together to make that progress. So I wanted to thank all of you for being here, but also just to underscore the importance of this partnership, because these health issues, they really matter. The stakes are really high. I would say that to a T, every person in this room wants the future to be brighter for their kids than it was for us. We all want that. But the stakes are high because our kids are struggling. They aren't doing well. And I keep something in my pocket to remind me of that, to remind me of what the stakes are. I keep these 2 socks. These are the socks that my 2 children, my son Tejas and my daughter Shanti, wore when they were infants. And I travel with these, I keep these with me because they remind me that the work that each of us does, whether we're in the government, whether we're in the United States and India, whether we're in the private sector, we do that work because the most important stakeholder we have in mind that we need to serve is our children. And together we can make good on the hope that we all have of creating a better world for them and for future generations. I thank you so much, and I'm so grateful for our partnership.
Thank you. Good afternoon to all of you. I hope the people right back there can still hear us. That's great. So it's great to be here on this wonderful occasion of Colors of Friendship. Amazing friends wearing different colors. What better exemplification of this particular event, Colors of Friendship. Ambassador Sandhu, you are a great friend of the United States, of the National Science Foundation, and your work, working with us in terms of expanding the horizons of science, technology, innovation, is truly exemplary. So thank you for your friendship. Honorable Minister Jaishankar, he visited NSF not too long ago. I was truly amazed by his very critical thinking around technology. And I said, this is a person leading the foreign affairs of India with such science, technology, innovation thinking as an underpinning. So thank you, sir, for all your support. Where we are today with this partnership, and every time we have reached out to you and the MEA in terms of making sure that this partnership can be vibrant, we have always found you as a significant friend, a partner. Thank you for all your work. Congressman Thanedar, your words were very exciting. Shri, I look forward to working with the Congress. And of course, with NSF, when they say we are working with Congress, you know for what. So, so we look forward to working with you. And so it's great to see all the friends here. And this is what this is about. I was thinking about this as I was driving in today. And when we talk about colors of friendship, when you look at the colors of a rainbow, the rainbow is the most beautiful thing in nature. When you look at the colors of the rainbow, a tiny droplet of water through which sun shines, and then you have this amazing display of colors, the 7 colors that we talked about, Vivek, as we would say. Now, if you look at the same tiny droplet, and for a moment think of this droplet as something called friendship. And this friendship is now empowered by the shared values, the shared aspirations. That is the light that flows through that. And when you look at it through the lens of science, technology, innovation, those 7 colors can be talked about in terms of the friendship that has resulted in amazing partnership. The National Science Foundation is now partnering with the Department of Science and Technology. Number 1. The National Science Foundation is now partnering with the Ministry of Information Technology. Number 2. The National Science Foundation is partnering with the Department of Biotechnology. Number 3. The National Science Foundation is now establishing a partnership with the Ministry of Earth Sciences. Number 4. And then the National Science Foundation just had a discussion with the Secretary of the Department of Telecommunications yesterday. That is number 5, the 5th color. And the 6th is working with the Prime Minister's office. The National Science Foundation is working on how do we expand the Quad partnership to deliver actual value to both citizens of both countries in the area of AI for agriculture. And the last but not least, the National Science Foundation with the LIGO, the Laser Interferometric Gravitational Observatory, which was approved by the Indian cabinet not too long ago, $312 million of investment, is again another facet of that color. These 7 facets resemble the 7 colors that comes out of the beautiful rainbow. But let me tell you, although these 7 colors are so evident in a rainbow, there are millions of other colors that are encompassing this rainbow. To me, those represent the millions and billions of talented people that will be empowered, that will be enriched, that will be unleashed because of this partnership, both in the United States and India. We would both agree that this is the moment that we need to have opportunities for every citizen everywhere in both nations. We would both also agree that this is a moment that we need to unleash innovation in every part of our nations. So this is a joint aspiration. This is a joint goal, and therefore this friendship makes possible the expression of this joint goal, and I know the future is very, very bright. Ambassador Sandhu, you talked about the 4 Ds. You talked about diversity. Science, technology, and innovation makes possible the expression of this talent through the diverse ways in which we can do that. But science, technology, and innovation is also the way in which we will have these talents expressed better. You talked about democracy. As you know, science, technology, innovation makes possible robust democracies, but more recently it has been challenged. Again, science, technology, innovation will be the way in which we will ensure robust democracies. You talked about development. Science, technology, innovation is the method by which we will guarantee development both in the United States as well as in India. And you talked about diaspora. What better way of exemplifying the friendship between the United States and India than the amazing science, technology, and innovation people that transcend between the US and Canada. You look at all the CEOs of all the technology companies, you look at the great scientists, you look at the great leaders in industry, entrepreneurs like our congressman here. This is truly an expression of the full frame and the full expression of what science, technology, innovation can do. And I'm so glad that that is the thread of the Colors of Friendship theme here today. Thank you for inviting me, and it's so delighted to be with all the friends, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you. It's a great event. We're talking about colors of friendship. And of course, Ambassador Sandhu, as I've said before, that he is the embodiment of a diplomat representing India in this country and across the globe. So thank you for your leadership as well. And all of you, my friend Shri included, today we're honoring the upcoming 54th birthday anniversary of what's also known as the International Day of Nonviolence of Gandhiji. What becomes important to me as I think about it is to think about where in the United States we have had few leaders who have embodied the work of Mahatma Gandhi, but I think there's a lot more that people from the Indian diaspora can do to spread the word. So it becomes important once again to reflect upon the core values of the Mahatma. truth, satyagraha, nonviolence or ahimsa, compassion and kindness. And let me give you a real example. When our boys were growing up, we taught them these values. For some reason, they flipped the satyagraha and the ahimsa. So whenever they fight with each other, and boys fight, their signal to stop fighting was satyagraha. It should have been ahimsa. But we let it go because that's the way things are as parents. You get what you get. You know, I read the first time the Bapu's autobiography, My Experiments with Truth, when I was 17, but soon realized that a person who reads about Gandhiji does not automatically imply that he or she would inculcate the values in their daily life. It is a practice, experimentation, and building those social and emotional competencies that it is a must if we truthfully exemplify Gandhiji. Let me give you an example of that, because recently I visited Sabarmati Ashram, and the story goes of Gandhiji is that he used to hold these town halls where people will come and ask questions and get answers. One time this woman came waiting 4 hours in line with her child. After that 4 hours, got to Bapu and said, "Bapu, can you help me? Tell my child not to eat excess sugar." He looked at her and said, "Ma," which is mother, "come back in 2 weeks." She said, "Okay, Bapu." Well, she goes back in the line 2 weeks later, waits another 4 hours, gets in front and says, "You remember me, Bapu? I came 2 weeks ago." He said, "Yes. Can you tell my son to now stop eating excess sugar?" He says to the son, "Son, stop eating sugar." She leaves, and while she's leaving, she turns around and says, "But Bapu, you could have done that 2 weeks ago." He said, "Well, the problem, Ma, is that I was also eating excess sugar 2 weeks ago." So now most of our lives aren't as binary as giving up sugar, but the individual and personal challenges of today include social isolation, deteriorating mental and physical health conditions like they've never been before. So in March of 1927, Gandhiji said that drink and drug evil is in many respects infinitely worse than the evil caused by malaria and the like. For whilst the latter only injure the body, but the former injure the body and the soul. You know, Bapu believed in the inherent worth of dignity and worth of every human being and the power that we have in our individual transformation. Our greatest ability, he said, as humans is not to change the world, but to change ourselves. So this philosophy that many of us can spread, it teaches us the importance of serving others, the work towards greater good, and the principles of truth, nonviolence, justice, and compassion. They really offer us a powerful framework in today's world, where we're seeing critical challenges and greater threats like never before. And I think it's important for us to embrace these principles today, because today we need to figure out how do we go from shame to restorative justice, from stigma to support, from isolation to community, and from violence to peace. We all can envision a future where individuals and communities can find hope, where our society stands united in the face of these challenges. And so in this spirit of unity and empathy and nonviolence and peace, that we must honor Gandhi's legacy as we forge a path towards a more comprehensive and loving world. So thank you very much for having me.
We would not be in the strong place that we are today, but for the External Affairs Minister leadership. Thank you so much. We come here today to honor the great Mahatma Gandhi on his birthday. His life transformed the quest for social, economic, and racial justice on the Indian subcontinent and around the world. And in my own family, his teachings and ideas had a huge impact. My mother trained as a social worker in Gandhi's Sevagram ashram, and my dad's own writings were greatly influenced as a professor of South Asian literature. But Gandhi's impact on U.S.-India bilateral relationship was also significant because ultimately, contrary to what many of my U.S. think tank colleagues might think or write, the U.S.-India relationship is built on shared ideas and, yes, shared values too. Top among those are a commitment to democracy and social justice. Gandhi would write to President Roosevelt in 1942 that he had, quote, profited greatly by the writings of Thoreau and Emerson. And some years later, Dr. King would write, quote, it was the Gandhian emphasis on love and nonviolence that I discovered the method for social reform, and that Gandhi's philosophy was the only morally and practically sound method open to oppressed people in their struggle for freedom. The U.S. and India value system advocates for a fairness and justice for all peoples. These values are the glue that hold our countries together. It was the reason that 60 years ago, my father chose this country to settle in, arriving, as he likes to remind us, with only $14 in his pocket and a bus ticket. The rest, they say, is history. For his kid to go on and serve as the U.S. ambassador to the country of his roots and now serve as Deputy Secretary of State is the longest of long shots. But it is a very American story, and it is a very Indian story too. And ultimately, it is the stories of hard work and risk-taking of individuals, all of you here, that have actually done the hard work in building U.S.-India ties and making it one of the most consequential relationships of this century. Do we have disagreements? You bet. Will we have bumps in the road? Of course. But two close friends aligned with these shared values, bonded together by the great ideas of Gandhi, King, and so many others, and solidified by all of your sacrifices, this is a partnership with staying power, with real impact, and that will continue to have an outsized influence in the world. And so I'm so grateful to the ambassador, to the minister, and all of you for what you do each day. And so on behalf of President Biden, the Secretary of State, our entire executive branch team that's represented here, we are so honored to celebrate and recognize Mahatma Gandhi, but also to celebrate and recognize all of you, all 4.4 million of you. Thank you very much.
I just want to say it is so exciting to be working on U.S.-India relations and to be up here with colleagues who have been part of this relationship for 25 to 30 years of their careers, have invested so deeply in furthering ties between our two countries. Colleagues like the External Affairs Minister who, you know, from his days as Joint Secretary Americas has been such a key part of every building block of this relationship. You know, the Ambassador Taranjit Sandhu, who has been here since he was a first-term political officer working to really invest the U.S. Congress in the importance of the U.S.-India relationship. And the Deputy Secretary who, from his days in the Senate, from his time in various administrations, has been building block after block of the architecture of this relationship. I count them all as good friends. Neera Tanden, from her perch in think tanks, in administrations with Congress, and now in her important role in the administration. Colleagues who have been really investing in this relationship for decades and decades. It is not, however, a government-to-government relationship. It is far, far more than that. It is a people-to-people, a business-to-business, a academic institutions, scientific collaborations, as Punch talked about. And it's most importantly a indication and a result of the investment of this very large an active Indian American diaspora that has been persistent over decades in building that relationship as well. So thank you for what all of you have done. I am now in the privileged position of working at the Development Finance Corporation as its deputy CEO. We are looking to create important, impactful ways of financing infrastructure, energy, health, food security around the world. Nowhere are we more active than in India, our largest portfolio of investments, where we are. Thank you. It is such a critically important relationship because India is a driver of growth. India is a driver of development, not only in its own borders, but around the world. And so this partnership becomes critically important. We're working in India and with India to diversify solar supply chains so that we are not all globally dependent on one country for the renewable technology that we need on our planet today. We have 2 large solar manufacturing projects in India today. We're working with India to advance global vaccine manufacturing, working with Indian companies, working on food security and on economic inclusion, targeting women entrepreneurs, and so many more. So it's a privilege for me to have been active across this relationship, but really, really exciting to see how far it can go, not only to advance U.S. and India ties, but frankly, how the U.S. and India together are advancing global security and global impact. So thank you very much.
Now I would like to call upon Ambassador Taranjeet Singh Sandhu sir on stage to deliver his remarks.
External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar. Mrs. Jaishankar, today is a rather active day on the US Congress. So we have a number of congressmen who are, once the voting is over, will turn up. But I'll just mention Congressman Thanedar, who's expected, Congressman Ro Khanna, we have Congressman Rich McCormick, and we have Congressman Mike Lawyer, and of course Congresswoman Deborah Ross, and Senator John Ossoff will also drop by. So I just want to extend a welcome in advance to them. We also have the White House Domestic Policy Advisor to President Neera Tanden. She's also finding her way in. We have, as I will call Punjab da Munda, the White House National Drug Control Czar, Dr. Rahul Gupta. We have amongst us one of my very old friends, Deputy Secretary of State, Rich Verma. And we also have a special person amongst us, that is Rich's father, Dr. Kamal Verma. Dr. Kamal Verma was a scientist in United Punjab and then came to the United States and served here. So a wonderful example of the bridge we always talk, which all of you here are. We have amongst us Director of National Science Foundation, Dr. Panchanathan. Panch, as all of you know, is actually one of the driving force in the science and technology handshake and cooperation and collaboration which we are having currently. We also have amongst us the DFC Deputy CEO, newly minted, Nisha Biswal. I think she is a very popular name in India and has served on India account on a number of occasions, but this time she has a much, much wider portfolio. So wonderful to have you here. We are also expecting the Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, to come soon. We have friends from the Hill. We have state legislators here. We have officials from the US administration and various states. We have friends from industry, leading professionals, academics, think tanks, media, and we have the wonderful members of the diaspora from all over the United States. I also have with me today the Consul Generals from Atlanta, Chicago, New York, San Francisco, and Houston. And of course, the Deputy Ambassador and the entire team from the embassy. And finally, above all, dear students, Namaskar, Sat Sri Akal, Adab, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us at the India House today. We are honored to have the External Affairs Minister with us. All of you know he is a very senior member of the Prime Minister Modi's team. He is one of the most well-recognized and well-respected statesmen across the globe today. I think it's not a secret that I served as his deputy in Washington, and it's not every day that you get to host your former boss, who's also your current boss. I must admit here that his energy, josh, and positivity are infectious, and I've learned so much from him. Welcome back, sir and ma'am, back to India House. Now they say to speak and to speak well are two different things. So to speak, you will have my example, and to speak well, you will have the External Affairs Minister speaking. I must confess here that seeing the large crowd of and number of guests here speaks for itself. Welcome. Many of you have traveled from far, Atlanta to California, Boston to Miami. If I'm missing a few cities, excuse me. But I'm sure all of you will agree that your love for India has brought you here, and this is a big family gathering, and we have been having such gatherings. And it's wonderful that all of you have come to pay your greetings and respects to the External Affairs Minister. The theme of today's gathering is, as you can see, colors of friendship. We are celebrating the 4 Ds that brighten India-US Dosti: diversity, democracy, development, and diaspora. Friends, around this year, we celebrate many different festivals. Janmashtami, Ganesh Chaturthi, Milad un Nabi, Rosh Hashanah, Navroz. We are soon going to have Navratri, Dussehra, Diwali, Gurpurb. After that, we are going to have Thanksgiving and Christmas. So this is a reflection of our diversity. As all of you know, that India is a land of 1.4 billion people, world's largest democracy. Perhaps one of the world's largest pluralistic democracy. Home to all the major religions of the world: Hindus, Sikhs, Muslims, Buddhists, Jews, Jains. Nearly 20,000 languages and dialects. Each state in India, and you will see some part of it today, has its own cultural identity, own language, customs, traditions, satire, cuisine, attire, and some of the cuisine you will taste today in India House. The rich and vibrant colors of India, the very essence of our existence, our own uniqueness and our own Indianness. And United States too is one of the most multicultural societies. The threads of diversity and democracy that connect us run deep and strong. Today is also, we are celebrating and paying homage to Mahatma Gandhi. His birth anniversary is coming on 2nd of October. It's well known that he has inspired millions across the world, including the United States. And his message of hope and dream, equality and liberty, freedom and empowerment is ever relevant. Mahatma Ji once said, the difference between what we do and what we are capable of doing would suffice to solve most of the world's problems. This is so true of India-US relations too. Friends, India's development story today has attracted global significance. We are a home to the third largest tech ecosystem, creating a unicorn almost every week. We are the largest world's renewable energy expansion program, the largest world's financial inclusion program, world's largest health assurance program. We are also the largest producer of generic drugs globally. And of course, we are the largest producers of movies. I'm sure all of you watch them. I can go on and on, but effectively, we have used technology for good governance. However, our vision of development is neither self-centered nor myopic. We aspire for the global good. As Prime Minister Modi has said, when India grows, the world grows. When India reforms, the world transforms. Be it the recent G20 presidency or the substantive outcomes of Prime Minister Modi's state visit to US, in which most of you participated, or the visit of President Biden to India recently, or our active collaboration with the US under Quad, IPEF, I2U2, International Solar Alliance, or recently launched India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, or Global Biofuel Alliance. You will see that we are working together, not just with each other, but for the world. Friends, ultimately, it's the people who define this partnership. 4 million strong Indian diaspora in the United States, including 300,000 Indian students. You are all the pillar of this partnership. Thank you for taking out the time to be with us today. And before I conclude, I would also like to take a minute to recognize the efforts of my team who have put all this together. They represent the beautiful colors of India and the United States. The stalls which you will see, the colors, the decorations, and the food, all has been done in the India House. These boys and girls have worked day and night for the last few days, and despite the weather. They have shown that the colors of friendship is not just a figurative hashtag, but something very real and actual. A big round of applause for them. Let me wish you all happiness, health, and success, and thank you very much for joining us today.